What is happening, my good people? Greetings. How are you? How's it going? How's everybody doing out there? What is the latest and greatest? Hope everybody's doing well, feeling fantastic and excellent spirits here on a Wednesday. That's right. Let's click right on it now. July the 9th, 2025. In the Northeast here. A little bit not as hot as yesterday. Yesterday reached into the mid-90s with the heat index. Today's supposed to be upper 80s. Not that I'm trying to play meteorologist, but it is summer, my time of year, my favorite season by far. And I just hope wherever you may be, whether you are in the Northeast or somewhere else in the US of A, or maybe even outside of the US of A, for all I know, stay cool, enjoy. Glad that you stopped by, carving out precious time out of your day to watch what it is they have to say about what goes on in the world of sports. And it's going to be an interesting one because we are now officially in the Sports Dead Zone 2.0, as I talked about a couple weeks ago, with nothing much going on. Yes, baseball on a day-to-day basis, and Wimbledon, which is getting interesting as we get toward the end of the tournament here, the final couple of days. We have actually matches going on right now with Jannik Sinner and even Novak Djokovic. So I'll touch on that a little bit later on. But for those who are wondering, what is J Reel's going to talk about? I see some comments there. I'll get to that in a second. Well, share your thoughts. I'm going to need your participation today because, yes, I got some things on the docket. There are a few things that I need to get off my chest, but it's not as if I could rattle off 5, 6, 7, 8 topics to discuss here. And even though these live streams go anywhere between an hour, hour and a half, sometimes more than that. In fact, from a couple months ago, I think I did one over 2 hours. But with that being said, this is going to be a day where I'm going to need your participation. So whatever it is that's on your mind, whatever it is you want to ask, whatever it is that's going on in the sports world that you want to get my 2 cents on, now's your shot, so please do so. And for those who aren't on live, shame on you. But in all seriousness, if you're watching the replay, please leave a comment anyway. I'll be more than happy to follow up, as I always mention at the start of every one of these live streams. Just because you're not on with me during the 12 o'clock hour here Eastern time doesn't mean that I can't send a comment because obviously he's not live. He's not watching. He's not paying attention. No, I'm paying attention. So please, whatever's on your mind, leave a comment, and I'll be more than happy to follow up. And let's see. I got a couple comments here. My guy, Bio, what is going on, my man? As a matter of fact, 2 people from the West Coast joining me right now, because then the other person is my guy, Val B, who just came back from Hawaii celebrating a birthday. So happy belated on him. And yeah, the Giants won yesterday. And it's interesting because I got a Giant fan from the Bay Area and a Dodger fan from Southern California in the chat right now. So talk about 2 rivals going at it. And that Giant win yesterday was just off the charts. Patrick Bailey with a walk-off inside the park 3-run homer. Seriously? Yes, that was not mispronounced, or that was one that, you had to wrap your head around, considering that an inside the park walk-off 3-run homer. That's what happened there last night between the Giants and Phillies, and they did my Mets a favor because the Mets, who came back and won there late, they were down 6-2. They scored 4 runs on 2 2-run home runs by Francisco Lindor and Pete Alonso, and then Juan Soto got the RBI hit in the extras in the 10th inning, I might add, and then they went on to win 7-6, so they inched closer in the NL East. So thanks to your team there, Val. I certainly appreciate that. But let's get right to it. What is happening and where we are with Major League Baseball at this moment? And this is something I'm going to touch on the podcast, not necessarily tomorrow. I may do so Monday or Thursday, but I figured I'd give you a sneak peek right now because, like I said, there isn't much to grasp at when it comes to the world of sports. And when I look at the landscape right now with baseball, a lot of these teams have played well over 90 games, and I get it with the All-Star break forthcoming. They're going to look at that as the halfway point. Nonsense. We're way past that. But as I take a look at what's happening throughout baseball at this very moment, unfortunately, there are 3 divisions that, to me, and I understand anything can happen, lots could transpire between now and the end of the year, and you've had these teams that have made these crazy comebacks, including the Tigers last year. Remember, they were, 31-10 to close out the season, and they made it to the postseason in a Game 5 in the ALDS against the Guardians. And even with the Mets last year, where June 2nd, they were 24-35 and obviously went to Game 6 against Bio's LA Dodgers. But how I look at it is that these division races, and the wild card is separate. I'll get to that in a minute. But they're a wrap in the AL West, NL West, and the AL Central. I mean, the Tigers could literally fall asleep between now and the end of September, and they'll still win a division going away. So that takes 3 divisions out where you could put in 3 divisions. And yes, you can look at the AL East and NL East. That could probably be a fight to the finish where the Blue Jays still have that 3-game lead on the Yankees, where the Blue Jays are just the hottest team in baseball. And of course, I could touch on them. But for Toronto, what they did last week, sweeping the Yankees, and then over the weekend, sweeping the Angels, and then getting off to a good start this week, to where the Yankees, after snapping that 6-game losing streak on Sunday in the game that they had to have, they salvaged the Subway Series without getting swept. And for them to win last night, where they bombed the Mariners. So who knows if they're going to now change their tune as they get into the All-Star break. And I mentioned that yesterday, how this week for the Yankees, knowing that they have Seattle and the Cubs coming into that building for these next 6 days. And right now, 1-0, you definitely take that if you're a Yankee fan. You want to go 4-2 over these next 6, but you want to have a good feeling if you're a Yankee fan going into the All-Star break, knowing that these last 4 or 5 weeks has just been a disaster. And with Clark Schmidt going on the IL until next year with Tommy John surgery, on top of guys like Luis Hill, who has not pitched yet, and even though I hear that he's slowly but surely on the mend and coming back and maybe could start as early before the month of August, but this Yankee team is trying to piecemeal it together and get themselves in a position where they've led throughout in the AL East for the majority of the year, but obviously over the last week, they had fallen on hard times and obviously out of first place. So you have that race, you have Mets and Phillies, which you think that's probably going to be tooth and nail to the end. I mean, it's been hot potato, although the Phillies have pretty much, I don't want to say taken control, but they've had first place over the last couple of weeks because the Mets have not played well up until this recent stretch where they won 4 games in a row, beating the Brewers those 2 games in the middle of last week, then the first 2 of the Subway Series, and after the loss on Sunday, they won last night. So maybe they could turn it around and get themselves in a position to where they can overtake the Phillies or be right there with them, tied for first. I mean, they're right there when you think about it as of right now. They are a half game back and 1 on the loss. But you have that, and then the NL Central, where the Cubs, they've been in first place throughout, but with the Brewers and Cardinals trying to get closer, more so the Brewers, because the Cubs took care of the Cardinals over the weekend, winning 2 out of 3, so they gained an extra game over them in the standings. And I see some comments. I'll get to that in a second. But, yeah, the divisions right now, nothing that's really enticing or even intriguing for that matter. And I get it. Both Easts in the AL and NL look like they're going to go to the wire. And in the Central, maybe the Cubs will pull away from the Brewers, although I expect the Brewers to be there. Cardinals, I don't know. Cardinals have had a rough start, then played very well between May and the middle of June, and now they've been okay. But at the same time, do we expect a lot of the Cardinals? Will they be sellers come the deadline, considering they have Nolan Arenado and a guy that may want to go elsewhere? I understand he has a no trade, but still, I don't know if the Cardinals are all in at this present moment as a team that's going to buy and maybe make a push to win a division, because you don't want to go in as a wild card. Chances are you're going to be a 5th or 6th seed. But listen, you get in, and anything can happen. I understand. But you have that, and even with the wild card for that matter, the wild card is more, I think, intriguing in the AL than the NL, because the NL, you have a lot of these teams that are bunched, or maybe I should flip that around. I think it's the NL that is more intriguing. Yeah, because in the American League, all right, you have, as of right now, the Red Sox are 1 game back. Then you have the Rangers, but then you have Royals, Twins, and Angels. And those teams are currently under 500. Granted, they're 2 and 3 games under 500, depending on which team you are. But if you're going to be taken seriously, you want to be at 500 or a little bit above. And I understand that the wild card race in the American League, and it's a bad league overall. I understand it's the Tigers. Do you want to say Toronto and / the Yankees, and even Houston? You got to throw the Astros in there, which have been just unbelievable. Other than that, you really don't have much. I'm sorry, because look at the Rangers. They've underachieved big time. They haven't hit this year. Red Sox, we understand that they have been up and down throughout. And, of course, they traded Devers to San Francisco, who hasn't done much there since he's arrived in the Bay Area. And then the Royals have underachieved. The Twins, remember, the Twins won 13 in a row. What was it? right around Memorial Day, or maybe soon thereafter, or maybe in the middle of that stretch. And now they bottomed out. So what? Do they have another 13-game winning streak in store? I don't think so. And the Angels, sadly, they're the Angels. The Guardians have certainly taken major steps back. And even though these teams are 3.5, 4, and what is that, 5.5 back? I mean, are you going to take these teams seriously? And I understand that they could have a run in them, as I mentioned, the Twins. But one more time, when you're going to go up against the Tigers, the Astros, and Blue Jays, Yankees, those teams aren't going to be able to match strengths, wits, whatever against those aforementioned teams. So that's why the American League is National League, different story, although there's a significant drop-off because when you have, right now, the Giants have the final spot, 6th seed there in the National League, and then you have the Padres just one game behind them, and you know that's going to be a rock fight to the end with those two teams, considering that they're going to battle out for second place, and chances are maybe even for that final wild card spot when it's all said and done. Then you have the Cardinals, who are a game and a half back, one in the loss behind the Giants. Then you have the Reds, who are 3 back of the Giants in the loss, but 4.5 back. And then after that, it's Diamondbacks, Marlins, and maybe going to throw the Marlins in the mix. And give it all. Listen, I don't want to just throw ice cold water on the Marlins. By the time we get to maybe by the end of the month, it'll be over and out for them. But this is a team that's actually played pretty well here over the last 2.5, 3 weeks, to where there's 6 games under 500. Generally, by this time, they're 20 under 500. But right, do we expect this to last? Absolutely not. But this is where the drop-off comes, because you would think with Terry Francona, maybe Ellie De La Cruz, and their young pitching staff led by Hunter Green, maybe they hang around. Maybe they're a team that when you get into August, they may be a couple of games back. Now, they're going to have to go on a serious run if they're trying to be in this wild card mix, and maybe even for the division for that matter. But again, they have 3 teams ahead of them right now. Maybe you concentrate more on the wild card, considering they are 4.5 back. And what is it, 4 in the loss? Yes, 4 in the loss. I said 3 before, but again, I need my glasses. So with that, Padres, Cardinals, Reds, those are 3 teams that obviously could fight it out for, and the Giants too, that's really 4 for 1 spot. Now, I know the Brewers are 2 in the loss and a game and a half ahead of them, and then the Mets are, 3.5 ahead of the Giants right now. Really, actually, the Phillies, because I see it now. The Mets, I know the percentage points. I said they're a half game back. But even still, Mets, Phillies is going to be neck and neck. So either one of those 2 teams are going to be wild cards at this present moment. And I should have known that. Let me just pull that up here. Now I look like a fool. Yeah, no, they're tied for first place, but I guess the Mets have the tiebreaker. I thought they were a half game, but I remember that the Phillies, they did play on Monday and lost to the Giants because the Mets were off. So now they're actually in a flat-footed tie. I thought they were a half game back, so my apologies. I should know that. I should be on top of that. But I thought the West Coast trip by the Phillies started yesterday and not Monday against the Giants. And come to think of it, that's my error, because on Monday's podcast, I didn't even go over the schedule. Because here I was talking about division races, and I introduced the wild card races for the first time on the podcast, and I totally forgot about the schedule. So that is my bad, hand raised high in the air, and I should have done a lot better than that, and even a lot better to start off this live stream by talking about how the Mets are a half game back, and they're actually tied for first place. And me being a diehard Met fan and doing what it is that I do, you would think, hey, Jay Reels, what are you still asleep? What is it? You've been under a rock the last 24 hours? And yes, again, hand raised high, because you know me. I'm not going to try to make excuses. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat or hide or whatever. That's a terrible job on my part. I got to do better than that. So I was unaware that the Phillies started that road trip out to the West Coast there on Monday as opposed to last night. But baseball, who knows? Right now, I'm not going to say it's going to be in the wilderness, but how much intrigue is going to be a part of the sport as you get deeper into the summer. And that's the one thing that you really have to zero in on, especially if you're the non-baseball fan. Now, if you're a baseball fan and obviously a team you root for is in the mix, you're good, because day in and day out, you got a game. All right, of course, the occasional off day, but you're not going to have to go through a slumber to get to the NFL season, where we're still now less than 2 months away from the start of the NFL season when you think about it. And I'll talk a little bit NFL later on. But how I look at it is that if you're a sports fan and a good sports fan, right, you're going to pay attention to what's happening in baseball. But when you see these races, especially division races and the wild card races, it's not as if you have a million teams that are going to fight out for one spot. Yes, I just talked about the National League. Right now, it's looking 4-for-1, but obviously anything can happen between now and the deadline at the end of the month, and then obviously once you get into August and September. And in the American League, I mean, it is weak sauce. So, I'm going to be on top of it, despite my shortcomings here with the Mets and not being exact with the standings there just a few minutes ago. But baseball is going to be in for it right here. And it's a shame because this is the one sport that, even if you're not a big baseball fan, at least you'll pay attention because there really isn't anything else going on. Is anybody watching NBA Summer League right now? And Summer League is going to end what? I would think in the next few days. Summer League isn't from July, whatever it is, 5th through August 5th. It's only a couple of weeks. And on top of that, you don't have any NHL news or notes to report. Yeah, you may have a couple of signings here and there. Same with the NBA for that matter. But they're out in the wilderness right now. Their seasons are done. And yes, I understand college football will be part of our consciousness as we get into August. But right now, nobody's thinking college football. NFL, I'll touch on that in a little bit. But everybody's shopping for football, not this guy. And yes, I have my reasons. So unless you're wrapped up into the Wimbledon, which I am, or the Open Championship, which is, I believe, a week from tomorrow, the Open Championship, which is formerly known as the British in golf, it is literally tumbleweeds going through the sports universe because you do not have anything else. And this is the Sports Dead Zone 2.0, as I like to call it. The first one being from the confetti coming down on the Super Bowl, wherever the venue may be for that year, up until, I would say March Madness, but even more so when the baseball season starts. Because when baseball starts, that's when it really kicks off, because then you get into April, and then obviously everything that April has to offer when it comes to sports, which to me is the best sports month of the year by far. And yeah, then you go on that run from April, May, June up until July 4th, where it's wall-to-wall sports and your head is spinning. And then now you kind of exhale, take a deep breath, and see where you go when it comes to sports, whether you get some trades, whether you get some certain news that's coming down the pike when it comes to the offseason sports, or the offseason news for the NBA, NHL, maybe some football when it comes to training camp, things of that nature. But other than that, you got nothing. You got baseball. And that's it. And I wish I could have more to unpack when it comes to baseball, as far as, this team looks like they're going to be on a run in the second half, or this team that started off great, now they're coming back to the pack, and I think they're not going to make it. And yes, I can dissect that, but we all know baseball is still a marathon. And yes, there are 5 or 6 teams that are not going to make it when it's all said and done. We know that the Rockies are already thinking about vacation plans, the White Sox, the Pirates. I know I mentioned the Marlins, although by the end of the month, we could probably start looking at them as a team that is going to look forward to Cancun or somewhere in the south of France in the early part of October. But there aren't a lot of other juicy storylines that are happening in baseball. I wish I could say, wow, 5 of the 6 divisions are just in a rock fight when it comes to trying to fight out for a division here in the middle of summer. Or the wild cards, wow, do you see 7 or 8 teams are involved in both the AL and NL? Unfortunately, that's not the case. But I'm going to be on top of it and discuss, and let's see what we got here when it comes to some comments. I know there's quite a few. Yeah, Boo Giants. I know my guy Bio Dodgers. And I know last night, Ohtani did hit a home run off of the young phenom there, Jacob Mizorowski, but then he ended up striking out 12. And he's looked good. I understand his last start against the Mets, he got bombed, where he gave up a couple of home runs, a grand slam to Nimmo, and a solo shot to Lindor in the game last week. And that's another thing, yes. I was shocked. I talked about this on a podcast Monday. Now, we're well removed from the 2017 World Series, and Bio, I'm sure you could chime in on this, where, my guy Brent, good afternoon. Hope you're still around there in the chat room. Good to see you on here, my guy from north of the border. But to go back to Bio's comment, I know that 2017 is well in the rearview mirror, especially since you won 2 World Series after that and more so the World Series last year because of 162 games. We know about the pandemic World Series, etc. But that was a major shock. I understand 18-1 games could go away or you'll get away from you or whatever. And although you don't expect that, especially at home, but then to bounce back or to try to bounce back and not even, Saturday, I know it was 6-4 was a closer game and then 5-1 on Sunday. And then now here it is, you're in the middle of a 5-game losing streak where even though the Padres and Giants, I know the Giants have gained some ground on you, but I would still think that despite this losing streak, I'm sure you feel good knowing that your team's going to win the division. I'd be shocked if the Giants and or the Padres even make a threat there as we get deeper into the summer. But maybe a little head scratching, considering, especially with the Astros, who you never want to lose to the Astros, but in the fashion that you did, I'm sure that did not sit well. Or as I like to say from time to time, the Cheerios or whatever you have for breakfast, the bacon, egg, and cheese did not go down well the next day, or even that night, let's say whatever it is you have in dinner, the burger and fries certainly was coming back up, if you know what I mean. But, yeah, I think despite the fact that, let me see, how much ground did the Giants gain here? All right, at 5 back. I know on Monday there was 7 back, so they gained a couple of games there. And even though, look at that, they must have been 9 back prior to that. So this is why baseball, as we talk about all the time, anything can happen. And not to say that the Giants, by the time you blink, let's say come Monday, they're going to be 2 games back of the Dodgers or get that much closer to the point where, now are the Giants going to be a threat? But watch it come back Monday, and the Dodgers will have that 7 or 8 game lead back, and it'll be as if nothing happened. So, but interesting enough that the Dodgers have now hit another period to where they have not played well, and the Giants, with that miraculous win yesterday, obviously increases their chances. Now, Val, I think it was. I understand it hasn't paid dividends just yet, but yeah, I still think it was a good trade. I mean, you didn't give up a lot. I understand you gave up a young pitcher and another prospect, but it's not as if you gave up the farm for Devers. I understand you got to pay the remaining portion of his contract. Not you, Val, but of course the team. And yeah, I still think it's good. I mean, he's a guy that's won a World Series. He's a guy he's more than a solid bat. I'm sure he's still just trying to get accustomed to his surroundings. Obviously, Boston to San Francisco, a lot different. And him trying to get settled there. So I would think once the calendar, now we're already into July, but as you get deeper into the season, I think he'll start to pick it up. And it'll be fascinating to see how he'll perform in the postseason if the Giants do qualify, because to me, yes, did they get him for the regular season? Absolutely. But I think his presence and his experience is going to be vital for that team, because even though you have other guys on the team, the Willie Adameses of the world and the Matt Chapmans, and yeah, they've been to postseasons. Chapman with the Blue Jays years ago, and Adames even last year with the Brewers for that wild card round. But Devers has the ring. He knows what it takes to win a championship. And even though Devers isn't that rah-rah type guy, he's not a guy that is probably going to tell his team outwardly, jump on my back, I'm going to carry us to the finish line. But he is a guy that you would certainly want in your locker room, despite what happened in Boston there toward the end. I understand. But I think he's certainly a guy that was a trade that they had to do. D-Rels, I don't know if you're still there. What's going on with you? Good to see you back in the fold. And yes, back in first place where they belong. I know it was a tie. And again, bad job on my part because I thought they were a half game back. But yes, now let's see with the Orioles and the Royals. And let me see who the Phillies. I'm sure they got the Giants. Is that a 4-game series? I would not be surprised. Let me look at the schedule real quick, because I'm sure they're still going to be on the West Coast as of the end of the week. So now Philly, no, they're playing the 3 games there. And tonight, no, they're probably playing an afternoon game in, San Francisco, typical Wednesday. And then Philly goes to San Diego. So look at that. Interesting stretch for them. So I'm going to be rooting hard for the Giants to sweep, and also San Diego, who's trying to get themselves ahead of the Giants in the wild card mix. So, and with the Mets playing the Royals too, and like I mentioned, they've underachieved. So let's see if the Mets could go into this All-Star break all alone in first place. All right, Brent, what you got? Now the Big Daily Podcast is jumping over the idea that LeBron will go back to Cleveland. 23 years down the narrative to chase a fifth chip. Interesting. Let me just big podcast. Now, I don't know if they're doing that just for content. I mean, how I look at that, Brent, is who are these podcast hosts following? Who are they watching? Are they going to the Shams, Sharania on ESPN, or the Brian Windhorst, or some of the other guys that are out there that cover the sport? To me, those are the guys. Now, that's like me saying as a podcast host, I'm going to come on and I'm going to say, well, you know what? I can see LeBron going to the Knicks. And I can give you reasons why. But that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to the Knicks. So, although they could try to conjure up whatever story, and that's the thing. You know, it's all this clickbait, all this, let me see what angle I can come up with. And yes, it could be creative. And I don't know. I would like, if you can, send me some of that stuff because I'd be curious to read it. And I'm sure whatever it is that they're saying, it makes sense. And in fact, well, I'll get to that in a second about LeBron and a particular piece of content that I watched that I'm actually going to critique and edit and have it packaged for you, hopefully by tomorrow. But the editing process is tedious, so I'll talk about that in a second. In fact, I'll talk about that afterwards. That's one of the topics I want to discuss. But as far as these podcast hosts, whether they're guys that have either covered, written, reported, former players, whatever it may be, or even just the average Joe like myself. And the average Joe like myself, that's where you have to take it with a grain of salt, because unless you are all in on this particular person, which thankfully you guys and gals are all in on me, and I appreciate your support. You know that 1,000%. But if I found any nuggets from any source out there, and let's just say that if there was someone that I knew that had inroads into the league, and I wanted to confirm with you guys and gals that, hey, is this going to happen, or the likelihood of this happening? And if they say, yeah, go, run with it, then I'm going to run with it. But I'm just not going to come on here to say, well, I think LeBron's going to go to Cleveland, and here's the reasons why. And just like what Brent posted here, he'll go back to Cleveland, obviously the number he wears in his 23rd year. That's not a narrative, whatever. Now, if these creators or hosts are coming out and saying that, then I could think of the same thing for the Knicks and give him a number like, oh, well, LeBron's going to change his number from 23 to 73. Because the reason being is the Knicks' last championship was 1973. And because in 2010, when he became a free agent, and a lot of the fans and even the front office, they were pursuing LeBron James at that time. So now here it is, 15 years later, he's going to come back to the Garden, and he knows that if he wins a championship in New York, in the Mecca, MSG, one of the favorite arenas, and I believe it's his favorite arena he loves to play in, then he'll forever be a god, and they'll build a statue outside of Madison Square Garden for him. I could say all that, and that could sound good, and it's legit, but what am I basing that on? Have I heard him wanting to come to New York? Has there been anything based on the people that he's with, whether it's Rich Paul or Maverick Carter, or maybe his wife tipped off something on social media where she posted in New York? It's like, oh, I can get used to this place, where it's like, oh, and of course, and that's not the case. I'm not saying that she posted an Instagram or TikTok or whatever saying that she was in New York and saying I can get used to this. So I don't want people to think that right away. Let me go look for this on her socials to see if that's true. No, I'm not saying that. All I'm doing is using that as an example for people to take it and run with it. And even that doesn't tell you or explain that, oh, yeah, well, LeBron's coming to New York, if she had a post like that. So, yeah, I'd be more curious to delve into that type of content and see how accurate, or more so how true it is. And kudos to them for doing that. But me, I'm not going to do that. To me, it's about credibility. It's about being authentic. I'm not going to. And in fact, this is one guy. Let me pivot here for a sec. I don't know who watches a lot of these other YouTube channels that have content, more particular to NBA. There's this guy called the Flight Mike, I think his name is. If anybody knows what a Flight Mike, please put it in the room. And don't worry, I'll get to some of the comments as far as I know Bio got a couple and Brent. I'm going to get to that, I promise. But there are some content creators in this particular one. I don't want to single them out or whatever, but I guess I have to. This guy, the Flight Mike, and I saw his, maybe I'll pull it up on the screen. You know what? Let's just have some fun here. And look, I'm actually giving him some pub here. Not that he needs my pub, because the guy, listen, I get it. He's got over 1 million followers. And kudos to him. But here's the problem that I have with his 1 million followers. When you put up content, you ready for this? Let me just make sure I got this. All right. Let me share my screen here. Have some fun. And I know I shouldn't do this at his expense, but this is just part of the reasons why I'm going to do these critique videos, which I'll touch on in a moment. All right, share my screen. Yeah, I know. Yes, yes, yes. Here we go. Ready? I'm sure you guys see this. Share. Now, this guy, now I'll go to the top. There he is right here. He's got over 1 million subscribers. Hey, congrats. And you know what? I'm not going to knock his hustle in that regard, because if the content he's putting out and he's got 1 million subscribers, whatever. But here's the problem I have with this. This is what ticked me off when I saw this. It says the Clippers trade with the Heat changes everything. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, this Norman Powell trade? And this is a problem with these content creators. And then look, if you look at the captions that he has here, I don't know, it's probably not going to go that much longer. But he even came out and said that, oh my God, this Clipper trade is insane. What is this, Paul George for SGA and all those #1 picks? Now that's an insane trade. But he had the nerve to even come out. And if you just watch the first minute, I just shut it off. I said, I can't take this guy seriously. And even in the comments I wrote, it's like, come on. You're making it sound like this is a Luka trade. And, I mean, I can't stand it. Look, LeBron James' situation keeps getting more insane. And, I mean, all right, now this, like, it makes sense. I haven't watched the video. The Knicks' embarrassing search is over. All right, yes, because it was embarrassing. That I give him. But a lot of this content is nonsense. And I'm not going to put content like that just for the sake of subscribers. And to me, it's all about the substance. Forget about the style. And everybody knows I don't have that fancy editing, and I know I could do that. And I know eventually I have to get to that point because, yeah, obviously I want to catch people's eye. I want my content to resonate in that regard. But to me, it's about what you say and about what you put out. And the credibility, the integrity of that, the knowledge of what you're going to put forth, and not just come out to say, whoa, did you hear this NBA trade that happened today? Norman Powell, 3-team trade, the biggest trade of the week, or the biggest trade of the offseason. I mean, come on. You're fooling no one. You may fool the 20-year-old or the novice sports fan, and maybe that's the type of fan he wants to reel in. Not me. I want any and every sports fan, the casual, the diehard. Everybody knows the guys who are in here, the Vals, the D-Rels, the Brents, the Bios, we're all kooks because we're all family in that regard. So, yeah, but even if there was somebody that came in here and asked like the most generic question ever, I'm not going to say, get out of here, you don't know what you're talking about, or whatever. Like if the guy comes in and says, oh, what do you think about James Harden? Do you think he's an all-time great player? I'm going to answer it objectively, and yeah, I may have my bias towards James Harden, but I'm not just going to come out and just rip James Harden to shreds, but I'm going to give you my honest answer on that and how I feel. So that's it. And do I think he's an all-time great? I know I just brought that up, and I guess I have to answer it. Do I have to answer it? I don't know. You tell me whether or not I should answer it, and I will certainly do so. But all right, let me get back to some of these comments. Let's see. Yeah, Bio, I feel you. No matter what. And you can play them 100 times a year, and you're going to think back to that 2017. I get it. And listen, we could talk about the Yankee fan and Brian Cashman, the GM, still to this day sour. But the thing is, they were terrible in the games in Houston. They batted 150 during that 7-game series or during the 4 games in Houston in the ALCS. And then you could talk about that game 5 where the Astro batters laid off on 38 Clayton Kershaw sliders. And listen, I understand Clayton Kershaw's postseason record doesn't come anywhere close to what he's done in the regular season throughout his career. But when you had a 4-0 and 7-4 lead in that game, and you're laying off arguably his toughest pitch, it may not be his best pitch. We know that overhand 12-6 curveball, to me, that is a lethal pitch. But you're going to lay off that slider. That's going to go a long way for the Astros in order for them to win the game. And as it was, what was the final? 13-12? It was a crazy game. I'll never forget. Game 5 there in Houston. All right, Glasnow. What's happening with Glasnow, Bio? Is he back? I know between he, Roki Sasaki, obviously Blake Snell, those guys, you don't even think they're on the team. And I'm sure they're going to come back August and gear up. And you got Ohtani that's throwing over 100 miles an hour, as we've seen. But now I'm curious about Glasnow. And I should know that, but obviously I haven't been on top of the Dodgers here. Matter of fact, I'll look that up now. Well, people are saying, Jay Reels, man, what, your fastball is like Jamie Moyer today. What's going on? Listen, I'm always in tune to what's happening with news. Oh, returns. Here we go. Returns from injury to pitch. And when did that come through? 2 hours ago. So, Bio, thanks, man. I appreciate you putting that up there because I didn't know. And even though I was perusing what's happening in sports, whatever, and preparation for this, I mean, I did prepared a little bit. I mean, obviously not a lot because what is there to talk about, as I mentioned a few minutes ago? But look at that. So, Glasnow is going to return. Hopefully, he stays healthy because that guy can pitch. He's really good. And let's see. Maybe he gives them a, no pun intended, shot in the arm, especially with this 5-game losing streak, to maybe snap that if he's going to. Let me see. Is he returning tonight? Set to start. Yeah, he's going to play pitch tonight. So good for him. Or maybe is that an afternoon game? Excuse me if I take a look at the schedule. Yes, that is a 2-10 game. Excuse me. So Glasnow, I like it. Interesting to see how he's going to perform here as we have the Dodgers trying to snap this 5-game losing streak. So, Bio, thanks for that. I appreciate it. Now, Brent, interesting. Let's do your baseball update. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Don't want to interrupt your baseball the pot. Nah, that's right, guys. I want you to talk about anything and everything. It's all right. I'll get to the comments, even if I'm in the middle of a particular topic or whatever. But nah, I want to get to that. They were quoting Shams. Oh, they were. All right. And Shams knows. Shams on top of it. Tony Mo, thank you, my man, for jumping on board. I appreciate that. Yes, new live. Yeasman, thank you. President, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate that as well. I love it. I love it. And Nike, I see you too. Give me 1 second. What I got here for Brent. Shams, he talked about, all right, they're talking about the new Laker owners moving on from LeBron. Well, part of the reason is that he's not, obviously, he's not the future. He's not going to be on the team, you would think, past this year. And that's where a lot of these content creators have come out. Oh, LeBron has never signed a contract when he's going into his final year because usually he'll opt out and then he'll sign an extension. So he's not a lame duck or that expiring contract that could set himself up to be traded, whether it be here in this offseason if the Lakers don't make any more significant moves, or when you get to right around the All-Star break or where the trade deadline is, which is usually a week or so, 10 days before the All-Star break, where LeBron, who knows, if the Lakers are 27 and 28, there may be some rumblings like, I want to go somewhere else. It's possible. I mean, who knows with LeBron? And that's the thing. Everybody wants to speculate, and I get it. That's sports talk fodder. That's all the conjecture, all of the mysteriousness, for lack of a better word, around what's going to happen surrounding LeBron. Well, again, I'm not going to make up stuff, or I'm not going to. Now, based on what Brent said, and I take him, obviously, literally, that if Shams is coming out saying this, all right. Well, Shams obviously has his ear on the street, and he's in tune to what's going on. But, yeah, and the Lakers, listen, the Jake LaRavias and the DeAndre Aytons of the world are not going to get me all crazy to the point where, I think the Lakers are going to have a big year this year. Now, Ayton, listen, he's a player that has shown a lot of promise. Maybe not a lot too strong. He's a player that has shown promise and that has had his moments. But are you going to get that for 82 games? and a postseason too, where when the going gets tough, is he a guy that you're going to want to be in a foxhole with? I don't know. Even with LeBron on your team right now, as you've seen Luka in this offseason, the guy's lost a lot of weight. He looks great, and you can only hope if you're a Laker fan that he's going to continue to do so. Now, I agree with you, what you're saying, but usually not every time, but truth among the weeds. Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, the thing with LeBron, I understand that he's going to generate a lot of the buzz because he's a lightning rod, just like Patrick Mahomes is, just like the Dallas Cowboys. And Mahomes, not necessarily for the stuff that he does off the court or off the field in this case, where LeBron, obviously everybody's watching his next move, and Mahomes only because they've played in a million Super Bowls recently. Obviously, we know he's won 3. And even yesterday on one of the big networks that came out and said, as far as Mahomes, oh, he's going to have a down year this year or whatever it was. I forgot what it was. But it's like, seriously, we're going to talk about Patrick Mahomes in that regard? I mean, I get it's a slow news cycle when it comes to sports, but we don't need to make this stuff up. I mean, ugh. And Nike. Hey there, brother. I wouldn't want Harden on the Knicks. Blessings to you and the family all here. All right. Blessings to you and the family too. And yes, I wouldn't want Harden on the Knicks either. Would not. And I understand he signed, what, a 2-year, what was it, $85 million extension? I'd want him nowhere near my team. I don't care what metrics. I don't care what he's done on the court as far as his points per possession, usage rates, things of that nature. When you talk about all-time great, and I'll never forget, there was a list, I think right before the 75th anniversary, where ESPN came out with their own top 75 players in the league, and they actually had James Harden one spot ahead of John Havlicek. And I understand people are going to say, well, Jay Reel's a Celtic fan, so you know he's going to pound this. It's like, no. John Havlicek was a guy that, yes, 6-man, I get it, came off the bench, understood. And forget, you can even put the titles aside. Do you know how clutch, how big of a player John Havlicek was? If I were to ask any basketball fan, and forget about the young fan, because the young fan's probably going to say either Larry Bird or Paul Pierce. But if I asked any young basketball fan who John Havlicek is, they wouldn't pick him out of a lineup. They wouldn't know if John Havlicek, who he is, if they fell on him. John Havlicek is the all-time leading scorer in Celtic history. That's number one. Number two, do you know this guy was not 1, not 2, not 4, but 8 first-team all-defensive NBA team? 8 times. James Harden couldn't dream that up throughout 40 lifetimes if he was a first-team all-NBA defensive player. And Havlicek, who right now, when you think about it, is one of the most underrated players of all time. Now, I get it that he's not in the top 20, and I know he's ranked 37th. He's probably anywhere between 20 and 35, maybe 25, 35. But Havlicek was a tremendous player. And yes, he was a little bit before my time. In fact, one of the reasons why I became a Celtic fan, thanks to my cousin JD, who was a Celtic fan pretty much since birth, and we're just separated by a few months apart as far as age goes. And he's always loved the Celtics. And one of the first Knick game that I remember, I went to a Knick game in 1974 where they played the Hawks, but it was still kind of, just kind of feeling it out. But in 1978, in his last year, in his farewell, where the Knicks actually presented him, they did a little farewell to John Havlicek. And yeah, for whatever the reason, I just gravitated to the Celtics. And ever since then, I've been a Celtic fan. And yes, of course, I've seen the highlights, etc. I watched Celtic City, the whole 9. Not only was he a great winner, he was a great player. One of the most famous plays in the history of the NBA. Havlicek stole the ball. 1965, Eastern Conference Finals against the Sixers. So James Harden is, obviously he scored more points and done this or whatever, so on and so forth. But if you ask a pure basketball fan, who would they rather have on their team? I don't care if Harden puts up a million triple-doubles. That guy in a big spot always shrinks, always. So I don't want to hear it. All right, let's see. Last member of the production line joined. Is that right? Wait a minute. Is that? Hold on a second. Are you referring to Brent? Oh, look at that. Is that right? Yeah. Wow. Yeah, because I was going to say, so Sid Abel. Oh, my battery's low. I did not notice that. I still have some time now. Let me see how much, because I may have to show off the light here. No, I got some juice left. When it gets to 10%, I'm in trouble. I may have to show off that light, though, depending on how long I go here, because I still got a couple things to discuss. And people, thank you for your comments, as always, because obviously this is what keeps the show on the tracks and keeps it going. Diverts from some of the things that I'm discussing. So look at that. So the last member of that production line, I know I'm going back here quite a ways here when it comes to hockey, and that being Alex Del Vecchio, I'm sure. No, it's Gordie Howe. Hold on a second. I should know this off the top of my head. And right now, Brent's throwing me a wicked curveball. He's throwing me one of those. Yes, of course, Mr. Del Vecchio. That's what I thought. Yes, and that was about, what, a week ago, if I'm not mistaken? And I know I failed to mention that. Alex Del Vecchio, of course, the longtime Red Wing, passing away, I believe, 93 years of age. And I understand, way before my time, never saw him play, but one of the pillars there in Red Wing history, Gordie Howe, Sid Abel, Ted Lindsay. I mean, you're going down the list. And yeah, bad job on my part for not even bringing him up on the podcast. So that is one that we certainly will honor here for Alex D transitioning. May he rest in peace. All right, I'm going to touch on a couple of things as well as the critique videos because that's something I want to unpack. All right, Wimbledon's final days. I don't know who's into the Wimbledon right now. As of right this moment, I know Jannik Sinner is in the middle of his match. Let's see where he's at. But for those who listen to the podcast, I'm all about what Carlos Alcaraz does. I'm fascinated by his play. And as of right now, Sinner looks like he's going to win Ben Shelton. I know the first set was a tiebreak, 7-6, but 7-2 was Sinner. And is up 2 sets to love. And in the third set, they're tied at 4. So who knows? Maybe he'll put Shelton away. Let's see what Shelton has left in the tank. And then you also have Novak Djokovic, who's currently now 1 set down, also a tiebreak in the first set. And that was 8-6, 7-6, 8-6, and then tied at 2 there, going up against the Italian Corbelli. So we'll see what's going to happen there. On the women's side, I'm fascinated about Iga Świątek because she won today, and Mira Andreeva lost in straight sets and both in tiebreaks, where she lost 7-6, 7-6, and then it was, 7-3, 7-2? So Andreeva out. So Świątek, who I think could probably be the one player that could beat Aryna Sabalenka, and I believe she's going up against Amanda Anisimova. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that's going to shake down. And then you have Alcaraz going to go up against the American Taylor Fritz, who won yesterday. So that's going to be intriguing. Now that's going to be on Friday in the semis. So the winner of Sinner, Shelton, Corbelli, Djokovic, they will go up against one another Friday in the semis too. So I'm all about it. I want to see Sinner, Alcaraz again. I wouldn't mind seeing Djokovic, Alcaraz, but the thing is that we've seen it the last 2 years. And although Alcaraz, Djokovic 2 years ago went to a 5th set, last year it was straight sets, I believe. So I don't know if Djokovic is going to be able to go up against both Sinner and Alcaraz and win another Wimbledon. I think that's going to be too tall of an order for him to ask. So I'm looking forward to it. I want to see what's going to happen here, this third Grand Slam of the year as we get down to its final days. And, of course, I'll recap it a bit tomorrow on the podcast as well as on Monday with the men's and women's final this weekend, of course, at the All England Club. All right, now here's the funny thing. You ready? I'm going to get to the next topic. And this is, look it up, people. A week from today, you're going to have, believe it or not, you ready? As I switch graphics here. I see a comment. I'll get to that in a second. That is not a typo. The NFL training camp's open next week. Now, that comes with a bit of an asterisk or caveat. The Chargers will open up their camp a week from today. And then I believe 3 days after that, the Lions will open up their camp on the 19th. Now, get ready for this. 3 weeks from tomorrow, the Hall of Fame game will be played. Canton, Ohio, where you'll have the aforementioned go up against one another in the Hall of Fame game. And then that Saturday, you'll have the Hall of Fame enshrinement. I couldn't even tell you off the top of my head who's going into the Hall of Fame. Maybe Darrelle Revis. I forgot. And as we get closer, I'll be sure to talk about that a little bit more. But who the hell's ready for training camp? Who is ready to have these players report? And a lot of the teams that are going to report, generally the date is going to be from the 21st to the 23rd. You have the rookies come in, and then you have the veterans report, which when you think about it, 23rd is 2 weeks from today. I am so far gone to not even think. And people say, well, Jay Reels, your Steelers, with everything they've done this offseason, DK Metcalf, Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, even Aaron Rodgers, all right, fine. I don't know TJ Watt as of right now because of the contract dispute. But I'm not ready for football. Summer just started. Summer's just getting another, no pun intended, warmed up. I'm ready to hit the beach. I'm ready to hit the pool. I'm ready to enjoy the sun. I'm ready to go run 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 miles outside, which I've done a little bit as of late. Not 10 miles, but I've run 5, I've run 6, I've run a little less than that at times. But I'm trying to build up my stamina because I've been idle when it comes to running, and that's not, I hate that. But football, really? That's going to be back in our consciousness? And I don't want to hear from the dying-to-will NFL fan. And I've been watching the NFL since the mid-'70s. So although I've gotten on the NFL quite a bit here over the years, if you've watched whether the live streams or even more so the podcast, because that's when I've killed them, or even my channel on YouTube at Jay Reels, I put up vlogs against the NFL. And not to be clickbaity or whatever, but it's just my personal opinion about how I feel about the shield. I call it the shield because obviously when you look at the logo, it looks like a shield. But I don't care how big of an NFL fan you are. If you're looking forward to the Hall of Fame game or these exhibition games, you got to find something else to do. Exhibition football is like watching paint dry, grass grow. It is mindless because these players do not play. And maybe in that next to last game, because they had the 3 preseason games, and the second one, you'll see the starters get their reps maybe for a quarter and a half. Maybe they push it to halftime. But that's it. You get nothing. And I don't want to see these guys go up against, whether it's second teamers or even if it is against the other team's first team squad. To me, I could care less. And I feel the same for preseason baseball or exhibition baseball, basketball, hockey. Hockey maybe for the fights. I like that because players trying to get onto their teams by showing some physicality. But it is over and out when it comes to the NFL preseason. So for those who love it, for those who are looking forward to it, for those who are like, yay, football's back, I got summer to live. I got summer to look forward to. Wake me up. Maybe not even September 4th. Well, September 4th, you're going to have to wake me up because I'm going to talk NFL. I'll have my preview, my everything from soup to nuts, get a guest on before that and talk about the forthcoming season, which, again, less than 2 months from now. But there's no way that I'm wrapped up in football or even close to it. I don't know about how you guys and gals feel. I am not one that is right away, yeah, let's get cracking. I can't wait for week 1. No, this guy could surely wait. Let's see what else we got here. Yes, Brent, all right. Baseball purist, welcome. Talk about Volpe's dad fighting with Met fans. Your parents attend games so they get hurt too. I like this one. Baseball purist, thanks for finding me. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you subscribe, etc. All right, here's what I think about this. It is a good question. I did see the video of Anthony Volpe's dad at Citi Field over the weekend where, and I caught the tail end of the video. I don't know if there's a video where you see the Met fan egg on Volpe or Volpe's dad. Based on what I saw, was a guy standing at his seat taking video of Anthony Volpe's dad about 3 or 4 rows behind him, and he's shouting and yelling, even cursing at the camera. First thing I got to say for Anthony Volpe's dad, and I don't know what was said. I don't know if whatever was said about Anthony Volpe to his father was deeply personal. So I don't know that. If the video has surfaced, I want to see it. But even with that being said, you got to be a little cool. You got to find a way to maybe not tune it out, because we are human. And I get it. People are going to snap if somebody says something about their son, whether that guy said, "Oh, Anthony Volpe's dad," or "Your son sucks," or whatever. Yeah, of course you're going to be like, but I would think that that's something that he's heard before, right? Now, again, unless it was something deeply personal, like, "Oh, your son's a bum, he's never going to amount to anything, blah, 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 this and that," he should still not say much. I understand he's going to shout back because that is his kid that is on the field. And any parent out there that has a son that is on a Major League Baseball field, you know they're going to be proud. Of course. But, and to answer your first question, or it's not even, well, this is twofold. I'll answer your question in a second, baseball purist. But the first thing is that he shouldn't be cursing. He shouldn't. And no matter how personal it is, because once that camera goes up, that's when you have to dial it down. I understand you're in the middle of a rage and you're right now, he may not be thinking right or thinking straight, whatever, but that is a terrible optic. And although we don't know what was said, but that was like Tyrese Halliburton's dad going onto the court to address Giannis in the way he did. You can't do that. And even Tyrese Halliburton in the postgame came out and said, "My dad was at fault. 100%. He should have never done that. He should know better, blah, blah, blah." So he defended Giannis and not his own father. Where in this case, if Volpe's dad was nuclear on this particular fan, he has to temper it just a little bit. Even if he comes out and says the most vile, crass, and profane statement or statements. And I know it's tough. Your blood's boiling. You want to slug this kid. You want to get at it, etc. And in fact, you know what? Let's have some fun with this. I know this will probably kill my battery on my laptop for sure. All right. What the hell? Let's see. Anthony Volpe's dad. For those who didn't see it, I'm pulling this up, and this is why we have these live streams. So thank you, baseball purists, for this, because this is something to discuss. Now, I want to see the video. All right, YouTube. When all else fails, go to YouTube, okay? Because I'm getting like the New York Post and... All right, let me take a look at this. And I don't want to hear commentary, oh, did you see what happened at Citi Field? Anthony Volpe's dad, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you're going to get that. Hold on. Yeah, let me. All right, so yeah, it's just a video detailing it. But in essence, he called him a jerk, throwing some expletives in there, blah, blah, blah. Anthony Volpe's dad, you got to chill. Okay? You got to chill. And then it's your parents attend games and they get hurt too easily. Well, they got to handle themselves a lot better. They should attend the games. I mean, if their son's playing in a game, or even if it's a situation where he's in an opposing stadium, he's got to have rabbit ears. He's got to tune that out. I mean, unless he has a fan coming up to his face and saying, with a finger pointing at him, that your son sucks, then that guy is going to be fair game to get slugged. Now, that doesn't automatically mean he should get slugged, but if a finger in the face, I would say, hey, don't get in my face. Don't point your finger in my face. And if he still does it, next time you do that, I'm taking your finger. I'm going to either twist it or I'm going to slug you. So he's been warned. Don't just come out and slug the guy, you know. And here I am sounding like the morality police. And not that I'm not, but it's just a matter of having decorum. You got to tune that out. And yes, I get it. You're angry. You're disgusted by what this person said. But to go off on a tirade and then have it recorded, it just makes you look bad. So, yeah, and they should still attend the games, but hopefully this is a lesson learned by Volpe's dad to know that, right, whether you're at Citi Field or the Phillies actually play at Yankee Stadium later this month. But let's say they went to Philadelphia, which they did last year, and the Philly fan is, if they're going to heckle Volpe's dad there, you got to just shrug it off. You just can't pay them any mind. Because if you're going to do that, then you're going to be easily targeted for other fans to heckle you and to get on your case. And then what are you going to do? It's going to get to a point where you're going to end up smacking someone or slugging someone, or worse, you're going to get slugged back. I mean, come on. But I like that one, Baseball Purist. Thanks for that. And Brent, we're not talking about snowflakes. Some fans take it to the umpteenth. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, and listen, if I'm at a sporting event, son or no son, let's just say I'm at Yankee Stadium and I'm rooting for the Mets. Now, I'm not wearing Met hat and Met garb. I wouldn't do that because I don't want to be a target. But I'm going to cheer my team on. But if somebody's going to turn around, sit down, Met fan, go back to Queens, shut up, this, all right, fine. And even if that guy comes out and says, you flipping jerk, or you blah, 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 this, that, and the third, I'm not going to like it. But, I'm there to watch a game. I'm there to enjoy. So I would turn around and be like, hey, can I just watch the game, my man? I'm rooting for my team. I'm not saying anything to you. I'm not trying to heckle you. I'm not trying to get in your face. Hey, you want to say that, hey, Mets suck. All right, that's fine. That's cool. When you want to make it personal, don't do that. And if they're going to be, 25 and they're loaded and just inebriated, that's it. You got to even pay them less mind because that's all they're trying to do is trying to get a rise out of you. But, yeah, you just got to, whatever. And if they're going to dump a beer on you, do something stupid like that, then sadly, that's when all bets are off because now you're being assaulted. And the last thing you want to do is just sit there and be like, all right, I'm just going to take it here. No. But it shouldn't even come to that. But I get it. Fans, they're easily triggered. And right away, if somebody's going to, quote unquote, try them by saying that, I go back to Queens, you suck. Oh, yeah, come down here and make me. I don't get into all that. Yes, Baseball Purist, F around and find out, play super games, win super prizes. Yep, Volpe's dad should have got a private suite. Oh, yeah, exactly. Now, I don't know if he was sitting like other family members, because I don't know, maybe in a case like that, do the Yankees call the Mets and say, hey, listen, we have several family members that want to go. Do they have a section for themselves? And I get it. Just because you have a section doesn't mean that you're going to be just away from the general public where you can still be targeted. I get that. But, yeah, if that's the case, so you got a private suite. Nike, my biggest fear watching my grandson have a short fuse. That's tough. Because if you get a kid that, let's say, I don't know, he hits a home run off your grandson and he's a pitcher. And he goes, that pitcher ain't anything. Whatever. I've seen better arms on a chair, so on and so forth. You're going to want to look at that guy and say, shut up. You're going to want to slug him. But you just try to do your best. I know it's tough. I love the comments coming in, people. I appreciate it. Baseball Purist. Remember when someone wore a Halliburton jersey at the Knicks game? No, that guy, it's funny. Was it to the game? Well, there was a guy that got trash thrown on outside the Garden. This was after when the Knicks beat the Celtics, and you would have thought that they won the NBA championship that day. But that guy, I don't know him personally, but I know of him because I know his mom, which when I first saw it, I said to myself, what? So, yeah. And the guy's been on McAfee. He's done the whole, and he actually went to a game. He went to, I believe, Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals. So, yeah, they hooked him up. If that's what you're referring to. But I don't know if there was a situation where it was at the game where the Halliburton jersey, the guy was heckled, and because that was outside the Garden that time. Bio. Fans should never go to a game with their first. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I do. If I'm going to go to Yankee Stadium, and everybody knows how much I hate the Yankees, I'm cheering for my team, and that's it. I'm not going to start Yankees suck chants or, yeah, Aaron Judge, sit down if he gets, strikes out, or well, I'm going to cheer him. All right, great, yeah, he struck out, but I'm not going to ignite any flames. And that's the thing, because there are fans, whether purposely or not, they want to incite the fans around them, but therefore they're asking for it when they do that. And yeah, you could cheer respectfully, and banter back and forth respect, I have no problem with that. If somebody came to me, Mets suck or whatever, Soto's a bum, all right, fine. You're not hurting me. I'm not, and I'm not going to retort back with, oh, yeah, well, Judge is, yeah, as a matter of fact, he still can't catch a cold, and he still can't catch a fly ball. Yeah, I can easily go back and say that, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not. Because I'm looking to go to the game to watch the game. And yes, I'll talk with sports fans. I'd love to. I mean, that's, please. But if they're going to start going that route, I got to tune them out. Nope, sorry, I can't deal with that. So I feel you, I'm with you on that. And he also writes, I know people will go to Dodgers for Giant game just to boo Barry Bonds. Yeah, and I understand. Giants, Dodgers, they've had a history of their fan bases. Sadly, with people getting beat up and near beat to death. I think even one fan didn't get beat to death. I mean, seriously, it's like, come on, man. Watch sports. Watch a game. Derails. A lot of people understand how it works. And listen, right, Derails, right, we are not, as I said before, I am not the morality police. I am not squeaky clean, picture perfect. No. But common sense has to take over at some point. It just does. And I'm curious to know what was said to Volpe's dad in order for him to come out in the way he did. And then for the guy to have his camera. Now, it's funny because it's not as if he had his camera turned to him. Oh, now I'm getting a low battery. So you may have the light get pulled here as I reach for my plug. It's a scenario where you have a parent of a player who is known. Anthony Volpe's the guy that's supposed to be, quote unquote, and this is blasphemous, but the next Derek Jeter, we'll say. Homegrown, plays shortstop, loved the Yankees as a boy, etc. But at the same time, there's a situation where once the camera goes up, and even though it looked like it was low, so it wasn't as if the guy had it in front of his face, and he's like, yeah, look at what Volpe's dad's telling me. He had it a little bit lower, just so I guess he tried to sneak in, taking a video where he was literally like, 4 rows behind him. But yeah, you got to know when the camera goes up, it's like, yeah, put the camera up. All right, my guy. Yeah, way to go. Yeah, so on and so forth. And then that's it. But he looks like an idiot. And right, if I'm at a game and let's say Met Yankee, the light's going to go off, people. So bear with me. I hope that's not terrible. No, that looks bad. I'll get a light. Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah, it's kind of coming into the picture here. Yeah, let me see. I'll get another light because I can't leave you guys out like that. Hold on. Watch this sucker go out. Yeah, this isn't really that strong. This almost looks like a candle in comparison. Yeah, that light may go out. Who knows? Well, my apologies for the technical error. I should have plugged in the laptop, but of course, here I am now looking like I'm in a dungeon at the moment. So, yeah, I'm not trying to sit here to say like, oh, this is how you got to handle situations in life. And I get it. Sometimes it gets the best of us, emotions, etc. But D-Rails, I'm with you, man. It's one of those things where it's just infuriating when you, see the parent of a known player on the team kind of go off the rails like that. It's like, what are you doing? And not only that, but he just subjected himself to further taunts, and maybe not at Yankee Stadium, but yeah, it's just a terrible look. And I'm sure Anthony Volpe can't be too happy about that, even though I'm sure he's probably proud, like, oh, my dad stuck up for me. But it's like, no. Now Volpe's going to get taunts, I'm sure, and he probably already has, about, oh, your dad's got to come to the rescue to fight for your battles or whatever. I mean, but that's what it is. So, all right, Nike, I don't know if you cover this. Soto being snubbed, of all people, Acuna. Yeah, now the Acuna thing is a joke. I mean, let's start there. Acuna played what, 40 games? I understand 9 home runs, whatever, but you understand that the game is in Atlanta. So that's number one. So that's the other reason why. But right, Acuna should not be on the All-Star team by any stretch. And to me, the Soto snub, listen, the All-Star game does not mean the way it once did for me, certainly as a boy. I mean, I watched every All-Star game. I can't remember the last time I watched an All-Star game from start to finish. In fact, I could tell you the last time I watched a game from start to finish. 2013. You know why? Because I was there, Citi Field. And that game, whoo. If anybody remembers the 2013 All-Star game, the first inning was electric. Because if you recall, Matt Harvey pitched, and it was a hot night. I'll never forget. It was July 16, 2013. Matt Harvey started the All-Star game that night, and first pitch, he gives up a double to Mike Trout, hit it right down the first base line, and then he ends up hitting Robinson Cano on the kneecap. And then after that, he struck out, I think it was Jose Bautista, Miguel Cabrera. Jeez, I got to go back and look. And I think Chris Davis was up after that, and he flew out to center, I believe. And that's how the inning went. And then he came out the next inning. He pitched 2 innings, and I think he struck out 1 batter, maybe 2 batters. So you thought, all right, some juice. This is great. The only other 2 highlights of that game was David Wright getting a base hit because, of course, Wright played for the Mets and was the Met All-Star of the team. And then Mariano Rivera, who came in the 8th inning of that game to enter Sandman, and all the players stood in the dugout and they gave him a standing O because that was Mariano Rivera's last year in the major leagues and, of course, his last time being an American League All-Star. Those are the highlights. That was it. After that, I have not watched a full 9 inning of the All-Star game. And to think the All-Star game will be this coming Tuesday, will I watch from start to finish? The likelihood of that is a resounding no. So, but Soto being snubbed, if Soto was there, fine. Does he deserve to be there? Obviously, the stretch in June certainly does, considering he's what now? He's at 269, I believe. 21 homers, 50, whatever RBIs. He should be there, but I'm not going to lose sleep over it. But right, of all people, Acuna, though, you're right about that. I mean, if the game wasn't in Atlanta, Acuna would not be on the team. D-Rells, the jealousy for Soto is clear. Players didn't vote him in. Yeah, and the manager, of course, is Dave Roberts, so who knows? Maybe, I don't know, trying to tweak the Met fan in a certain regard. That's quite possible. Brent, there are 2 sides of the story, and then there's the truth. Yeah, we all know. Actually, you want to add in the truth 3 sides, right? My story, their story, and the truth. Baseball purist. If I was a parent of a Major League Baseball player, I'd walk around like my stuff don't stink. Hey, that's the way to do it. Hey, keep your head up. My kid's in baseball. Your kid isn't. That would have been fine. Why not? Beats yelling at fans and trying to get after them. I mean, geez. All right, D-Rose. Brent, true, my dad always taught me that. Yes, absolutely. And D-Rose, baseball purist, exactly. My son's making millions, living his dream while your son is working a job. Self-awareness. D-Rose, you hit it right on the head. Those 2 words. Self-awareness. Which sadly, and not that I'm trying to sound like a professional here by any stretch, self-awareness is what a ton of people on this planet do not have. And that's it. I don't know what else to add. I could go down that road if you want, just based on experience. But yeah, there's a lot of people that do not have self-awareness, nor look from within to try to find themselves through reflection, through discovery, etc. I promise I'll shut up there. Baseball purist. Remember when Pete Rose ran over to catch the All-Star game? Of course, 1970, that was Ray Fosse. Now, I was a year old, so obviously I don't know anything about it. But obviously, in the years of being a baseball fan that I am, yes, 1970 All-Star game broke his collarbone, I might add. Ray Fosse was, I believe, catcher of the Indians at the time. Remember when Torrey Hunter robbed Barry Bonds of the All-Star game home run? Yes, I do. That was the 2002 All-Star game in Milwaukee. Yes, when he did that. Brent, Pete Rose, if winning isn't everything, why the hell do we keep score? I think Lombardi coined it. Pete lived it. Rest in peace, Mr. Rose. Or I got one for you there, Brent. Winning isn't everything. How about George Steinbrenner? Who, of course, I couldn't stand as a Met fan. But George Steinbrenner has one of the best winning quotes. Probably that's neck and neck with Pete Rose. Winning is only second to breathing. Does that sum it up? Let me see. Oh, is that all the comments? Let me see. I think I'm caught up. Baseball parent. All right. Yeah, so I'm caught up with that. Away we go. All right. Let me get to another thing before I bid adieu that I want to touch on. and that is my critique videos with another one on the way. First one is up on the channel. I don't know if anybody has seen it. I posted this Saturday morning. I wanted to post it on Friday, and I was thinking about doing this every Friday, but I'm just going to surprise people randomly, and I'm going to try to do at least 3 a week. Now, the editing process is tricky because I know with the longer videos, like the video that I did for Saturday was a 1.5-minute video, but it was 7 minutes with my commentary. But you can imagine that was actually, I think it was a 12-minute video, but then I had to edit it to 7 minutes. So imagine when I get to a longer format video, let's say, I don't know, an interview or whatever that it is that I'm breaking down. Let's say if that's a 15-minute video with my commentary, it's going to probably be 25 minutes, 30 minutes. And to condense that down to however many minutes it's going to be, it's going to take time. And this was my first one. So I know there's other B-roll that I have to add. I get that. So I don't want you to think that I'm not thinking about B-roll and adding that as a bit of some creativity when it comes to these critique videos. But my first one the other day was on Damian Lillard, and I think, Brent, if you're still there, you would probably get a kick out of it. Ashley Neville, who is a content creator, independent, I got nothing against her. She does good stuff. There's some videos that I'm like, all right, that's a bit of a reach, or it's clickbaity. And this one, to me, I thought was a little clickbait on her part, and I had to shout her out for it. Shout out for the negative. And yeah, I was actually surprised that I got even 500 views. And I don't want to make it all about the numbers, but I'm going to start putting out more of this type of critique videos and even commentary. I know, like the Steeler video commentary that I put out a week ago, Monday, was my best video yet. And the only reason why I say that is because I put out similar videos like that in the past, and they've gotten whatever, 30, 40, 50 views. And to think maybe this will get some traction, because I know a lot of these other content creators that are putting out, as I showed you earlier, the flight mic with these just preposterous and even absurd, whatever word you want to use, whether it's titles, thumbnails, etc. But no, I want to critique these videos, good, bad, and ugly. So I'm just not trying to get on people just for the clickbait stuff. If I see a video that's actually, I think, is pretty good or clever or whatever, I want to talk about it. And in fact, the video that I have my targeted on, I know we were talking about LeBron earlier, was this one particular content creator who came out with a video which was pretty clever, and I liked it. And he posted it on Instagram. He may have a YouTube channel as well. But there were a couple of things I was like, all right, let's unpack this. So that's going to be my next video. I haven't recorded it yet. I'm going to do so today, edit it, and I may have it up as early as tomorrow. But I want to try to do a few of those, which I know I even said going back last month and even toward the latter part of May, where I wanted to have 5 or 6 lined up. But then there was a lot of them that were of long format. And even when I tried to edit and experiment, it was just way too long. And that's something that I want to kind of craft with the shorter content and then grow into that, because I don't want to be sitting literally 5-6 hours editing one piece of content to where I got to get used to it, because this is my first time doing this. So I want to do the smaller content, try to get that out there, pump that out, and get it to everybody on the YouTube channel at J Reels, of course, and then get to the bigger stuff where I could be a lot more efficient in editing and with the B-roll and the overlays and things of that nature. So yeah, a lot's coming down the pike with that. And even my commentary. Now, the commentary stuff's going to be whatever happens throughout that day. If there's a news item, and if Bio, you're still in the room, I got to thank you for that, because I know with the Steeler video, I started talking about the Jalen Ramsey deal, and I said to you guys out there and gals, should I put up a commentary video considering I'm a Steeler fan and what they've done here, whatever? And even though I already had recorded it, but my guy Bio, he came out and said, no, put a commentary out there. I want to get your full take on it. Sure enough, I did, and it was actually wildly successful to my imagination. Now, right, did it get 100,000 views? Did it get 1 million? No, it did not. But it didn't get 30 views. It didn't get whatever. And the thing is that when I put out content in the beginning, of course, I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be good and it's probably going to blow up. And that thinking has stopped. Although this is where the learning process of putting up content and what's going to stick and what's not. And that's why by putting up the critique stuff, the algorithm will probably look at that as they did with the first video to say, oh, wait a second. He's critiquing this particular video, and it pumped out there to the point where, yeah, I got more than what I could have ever imagined. So, and again, it's nothing personal toward these creators. It's nothing that, I can't stand this creator, so I'm going to get on them. I know I made my mention of the flight mic, and not that I got anything personal against him. As I said, he's doing his thing, whatever, but that's just not my thing. And I get it. He's got his following. I want my following to come organic and authentic. I don't want it to be a situation where I'm just putting out this content where I don't believe in it. But if it's going to get subs and if it's going to get views and it's going to get, yeah, then I'm going to do it. No. That's why, people, integrity when it comes to what it is that I do. And that's why I do it. Anything less than that, I'm not putting my fingerprints on. Oh, no bark. That's my dog. I'm not putting my fingerprints on that. No bark. Yeah, I know. Usually she remains quiet, but I guess you heard somebody outside the door. So, yeah, I'm not putting my fingerprints on something that I, A, don't believe in, or B, worse, I'm going to be like, yeah, I think that's what's going to get me clicks and views and subscribers and whatever. So I'm just going to do that. Nope. For those who have stuck with me on the live stream since I first started it back in February, and especially if you go even further back with the podcast, you know that that is not my MO. So, and I see some comments here, which I'll get to. Let's see. What do we got? Brent. Oh, D-Rails. Oh, yeah, we talked about that. Pete Rose. Oh, I went further back. Oh, look at this. Stu. Of course, he had to throw that out there. And Stu, I go way back with. I've known him since the 70s. So, of course, I know he's going to joke. Well, I'll joke with him. That's fine. And I think Stu's a Yankee fan, I might add. I know he loves the Miami Hurricanes in football, college football, Dolphins. And listen, Stu, if you're still there, your thoughts on the trade? Jalen Ramsey, Minka Fitzpatrick. Brent, I saw the video. Thank you, my man. I appreciate that. Can you use videos to use in commentary? As far as the overlays and all that, yeah, absolutely. And I know with the Steeler video, I just went straight through. I didn't put any overlays or B-roll, anything like that. And eventually I'll do that. And I know there's a couple of creators that have done that without the overlays. And I'm like, wow. I mean, seriously? That you're just going to watch a talking head? And I get it. If you're energetic and obviously know what you're talking about, you're going to be compelled to watch that particular person. But I understand you got to give the video a little bit of an oomph by using, if I say, well, the Pittsburgh Steelers traded Jalen Ramsey and then insert video or insert photo of Jalen Ramsey. I get that. But I believe I could use video as long as it's not more than 5 seconds, I think. So let's say if I'm using game footage or him like intercepting a pass and going pick six, yeah, I could use like 5 seconds of that and that's it. If I use anything longer, him celebrating, doing this, whatever, then I could be in danger of copyright. So that's the last thing I want to do. Jay Reels, can I promote? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Adam Onavito is also a new daily streaming show called Baseball and Coffee. Now, when does that come on? And Ottavino, of course, the longtime reliever, pitched for the Yankees, Mets, Red Sox, Colorado, etc. Daily streaming show. And I like to get on this because I know he's got that academy or his dad in Harlem. And I think Ottavino is not even on a roster right now, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and I want to get that. Oh, 2 days ago he started it? I got to reach out to him. Yeah, because I know he has that academy where a lot of players have gone to train and to sharpen their craft, whether it's either, I want to say former major leaguers or major leaguers that have been out of the baseball for a while and they're trying to get back in, or maybe even high school, college players that are going in there to try to sharpen their craft, etc. But yeah, no problem. Now, listen, let me ask you this. Are you baseball purist? Are you an Ottavino fan? Are you working with Ottavino on this particular podcast? I'm curious. So yeah, let me know in the chat and I'll post that up. But yeah, 2 days ago, I'll check that out. Baseball and Coffee. So obviously, I'm sure he's probably sitting at a round table with coffee, baseball. You know what? And thanks for that, baseball purist. I am going to Peter. What's happening? Is another one I go back with. Thank you. I appreciate that, brother. Thank you so much. As I'm sure you see, you got the Facebook icon. I know I've spread it out to Facebook a little bit, and I'll probably do so with Instagram, maybe even TikTok, just to get more eyes on. But obviously, YouTube is my thing. All right. I do computers, help desk for a multinational company. All right. So that's what you do. So obviously, you have no ties to Ottavino. You just wanted to promote it. No, and I appreciate that. And I'm sure there's other people here that watch baseball, follow baseball, know who Adam Ottavino is. We'll check that out. And you know what? I will do so too, because I would love to. Hey, who knows? Maybe I can have him as a guest. Come on one day. I know he's going to be like, who the hell's Jay Reels? But still, this is why I do what I do, to try to get myself those connections, networking, things of that nature. And who knows? He's from New York. Maybe he does it from the location there where he has that academy in Harlem. Who knows? I don't know, but I'll definitely peep that, take a look, and maybe I could try to wiggle my way in to see whether or not I can get in with him. Brent, thank you. You have a good rest of the day. And furry girls, yeah, the puppies there. Brent, you're the man. You know how much I appreciate your contributions, not only to all the stuff that I post, obviously the live stream, etc. And that's it, people. That's all I have. That's the last banner that I have when it comes to what is happening here. The critique video, so more on the way with that, as you know. First one is up, and the next one's probably coming in the next 24, no more than 48 hours, by Friday at the latest, but we'll see where we go with that. But that should be interesting, to say the least. All right, now, doing my good people, any last thoughts on those in the chat room? Let me know. I know the light. I got this one here. This is my backup light, my big light. I had to unplug because my laptop was about to expire, at least the battery, that is. So please chime in. Last thoughts before I say goodbye. As always, if you haven't done so, please subscribe on the YouTube channel. Like, leave a comment. Totally, it's free. You don't have to worry about. You're not going to get roped into any subscriptions, things of that nature. Well, subscription, yes, to my content, but you have to pay for anything, as you know. As you've seen on the ticker there at the bottom, every Wednesday, high noon, live stream, always coming at you. This is where you get at me, and we go back and forth, which is great. Podcast, the next one being tomorrow, as you all know. The latest edition will come then, which obviously is recorded, then posted. So this is where I give you guys and gals the opportunity to watch and listen and ask whatever it is you want to ask throughout the course of this live stream. Thanks to all for stopping by. You know how appreciative I am for you to carve precious time out of your day to listen to what it is and watch what it is I have to say about what's happening in the world of sports. I see a comment there. I'll get to that, I promise. So all that being said, let's see. Let's get to it there. To my guy Nike, and I go way back with Nike, 25 plus years, if you can believe that. Great work. Stay safe. Blessings. Thank you so much, bro. Blessings to you and yours and everybody else that was in the room. Baseball purists, some new people in the room, which I appreciate. Peter, my guy Nike, Brent, Stu, even with his Mets stuff comment, I get it. But D-Rels, thanks so much for stopping by. Yeesman, thank you very much. Bio, of course. Brent, who I'm sure exited stage left already. And if he hasn't, you know, much thanks to you. Tony Moe, I go way back with him from the days when I used to work a 9 to 5. And I didn't forget anybody. Val B, how can I forget him as well? So, yes, everybody who hopped on board today, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate that. As I get ready to sign off here, as the live stream every Wednesday, high noon, as you know, Eastern time. Podcast tomorrow. Look forward to that critique video that's coming through on the channel, because whether you do or do not know, this is what I love to do. I quit my job full-time, as I mentioned. Yes, that is a fact. To blaze a path and trail in the podcast universe, even in the live stream universe, to try to get some sponsorships. And I got a couple. Check the YouTube page, website as well, because as long as I'm alive and breathing, in the blood and the DNA, I will continue in front of this camera and microphone to deliver nothing but passion, fire, energy, fury with my thoughts, opinions, critiques, praise, analysis, feelings on anything and everything that happens on the world of the diamond, ice, gridiron, hardwood, golf course, racetrack, tennis court, boxing ring, octagon, you name it. From my lips to your ears, from my heart to your soul, from where I am to wherever you are. The J Reels live stream always comes live, correct, direct, and in full effect. From the South Bronx, the South Beach, the South Central, the South Pacific, and all points beyond. Peace, love, and God bless everybody. And until next Wednesday, high noon on the live stream, and of course tomorrow on the podcast, on the flip, baby.